Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship Destiny as it approached Nexus Prime. The massive space station looked like a glowing jewel against the star field. After 50 years of trying, humanity had finally been accepted into the Galactic Council. "Admiral, we're getting the welcome signal," reported Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison from his station. His voice carried the excitement they all felt. This was the biggest day in human history. Sarah smoothed her dress uniform and checked her reflection in the polished metal wall. Today she would represent all of humanity before the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The weight of billions of hopes rested on her shoulders. The docking process took 2 hours. Nexus Prime was enormous, easily 10 times larger than Earth's biggest space stations. As their shuttle moved through the docking bay, Sarah saw ships from dozens of different species. Some looked like living coral, others were perfect geometric shapes, and a few seemed to be made of pure light. Dr. Marcus Webb, Earth's top alien expert, sat beside her in the shuttle. He had studied alien cultures for 30 years and spoke 17 different galactic languages. His hands shook slightly as he reviewed his notes. "Remember, Admiral," Webb said quietly, "show respect, but not weakness. The Council values strength and honor above all else." Sarah nodded. She had commanded Earth's space forces for 10 years and fought pirates in the outer colonies. She knew how to project strength. The shuttle landed in a bay filled with floating platforms and strange alien architecture. As they walked out, Sarah saw her first council member up close. It was an architect, a being made of living crystal that stood 12 feet tall. Its body glowed with inner light, and when it spoke, the voice sounded like wind chimes. "Welcome, humans," the architect said. "I am Crystalline Prime, speaker for the architect race. We have waited long to meet your species properly." Sarah stepped forward and gave a formal bow. "Thank you, Crystalline Prime. I am Admiral Sarah Chen, representing Earth and all human colonies. We are honored to be here." The ceremony took place in the Grand Assembly Hall, a massive room that could hold representatives from 800 different species. Sarah had never seen anything like it. Beings of every shape and size filled the floating platforms that served as seats. Some breathed water and sat in special tanks. Others were made of energy and needed no physical form at all. The collective, voice representing a hive mind of billions, spoke first. When it talked, Sarah heard thousands of voices speaking in perfect harmony. "Humans have shown courage and determination. Your species has grown fast and learned much. We welcome you as member 847 of the Galactic Council." Cheers erupted from the human delegation. Sarah felt tears in her eyes as she watched her people celebrate. They had made it. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. But as the ceremony continued, Sarah began to notice small things that bothered her. When the council members spoke about humanity, they used words like young and developing and guided growth. It sounded like they were talking about children, not equals. The ethereal representative, a being of pure energy that looked like a floating star, announced humanity's first assignments. Human colonies will be established in sectors 7, 12, and 19. These worlds will provide excellent learning opportunities for your developing civilization. Dr. Webb leaned over to Sarah. "Those are all outer rim sectors," he whispered, "far from the major trade routes and political centers." Sarah kept her face neutral, but inside she felt a growing concern. The sectors they were being given were on the edge of council space, far from anything important. After the ceremony, there was a reception where different species could meet and talk. Sarah moved through the crowd, shaking hands, claws, tentacles, and other appendages with various alien diplomats. Most were polite, but she noticed they treated her like a curiosity rather than an equal. A group of older council members stood near a large window overlooking space. Sarah tried to approach them, but they switched to a language she didn't recognize when they saw her coming. Dr. Webb translated quietly. "They're calling us the new warmongers," he whispered. "They think we're too aggressive and unpredictable." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. These beings had been watching humanity for decades. They knew about Earth's wars, about how humans solved problems with force when diplomacy failed. Did they invite humanity to join the council to help them, or to control them? Captain Lisa Rodriguez, Earth's intelligence officer, appeared at Sarah's elbow. She had been quietly moving through the reception, listening to conversations and gathering information. Her face was troubled. "Admiral, we need to talk," Lisa said quietly. "I've been picking up some interesting chatter." They moved to a quiet corner where Lisa could speak freely. "The council members think we're dangerous," she reported. "Not just military dangerous, but unpredictable dangerous. They're worried about how fast we develop technology and how we adapt to new situations." Sarah thought about this. Humans did learn quickly. In just 50 years since first contact, they had gone from barely reaching their own moon to building faster than light ships. Other species had taken thousands of years to make the same progress. "There's more," Lisa continued. "I think this whole ceremony was planned very carefully. Look around. We're the center of attention, but we're also isolated. Every other species here has allies and trade partners. We have nobody." As the reception wound down, Crystalline Prime approached Sarah one last time. The crystal being towered over her, its inner light pulsing slowly. "Admiral Chen, your species shows great promise," it said. "With proper guidance, humans could become valuable members of our galactic community. We look forward to helping you learn your place among the stars." The words were friendly, but something in the tone made Sarah's skin crawl. It sounded like a parent talking to a child, not one leader speaking to another. As they returned to their ship, Sarah looked back at Nexus Prime. The massive station glowed against the darkness of space, beautiful and terrible at the same time. Humanity had finally joined the galactic community, but she was beginning to wonder if that was really a good thing. Dr. Webb sat beside her in the shuttle, still excited about the day. "This is just the beginning, Admiral," he said. "Think of everything we'll learn, all the technology and knowledge we'll gain access to." Sarah nodded, but her mind was already thinking about defense plans and backup strategies. Something about this whole situation felt wrong. The Council was too eager to help, too quick to offer guidance, too careful to keep humanity on the edges of their territory. As Earth disappeared behind them and they headed toward their new colonial assignments, Sarah made a mental note to have Captain Rodriguez increase intelligence gathering operations. If the Council wanted to play games with humanity, they would learn that humans were very good at games too. The stars stretched out ahead of them, full of promise and danger in equal measure. 6 months had passed since the ceremony at Nexus Prime, and things were going wrong. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of New Terra Colony, staring at reports that made no sense. "Another power grid failure on Kepler Station," reported Chief Engineer Tom Bradley. "That's the third one this month. The fusion reactors just shut down for no reason." Sarah frowned. The reactors were Council-provided technology, supposed to be the most reliable power source in the galaxy. But they kept failing at the worst possible times. Captain Lisa Rodriguez entered the command center carrying a data pad full of bad news. "Admiral, we've got communication blackouts on 5 different colonies. The quantum transmitters are working fine, but somehow our messages aren't getting through to Earth." Dr. Marcus Webb looked up from his workstation where he was analyzing alien technology. "I've been studying the equipment the Council gave us," he said. "There are some strange components I don't understand. They claim it's for efficiency, but the design doesn't make sense." Sarah felt a knot forming in her stomach. When things went wrong once, it was an accident. When they went wrong repeatedly, it was enemy action. "Show me," she said. Webb led them to the technical lab where he had taken apart one of the communication devices. The inside looked like standard quantum technology, but there were extra circuits that seemed to serve no purpose. "These components here," Webb pointed to a cluster of unusual chips. "They're not in any of the technical manuals the Council provided. When I tried to remove one to study it, the entire system stopped working." Lisa studied the circuits with her intelligence officer's eye for detail. "They look like they could be remote access points," she said slowly. "Someone could use these to shut down our systems from far away." The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. If the Council had built backdoors into all the technology they gave humanity, they could cripple human colonies whenever they wanted. How? Many of our systems use Council technology? Sarah asked. Tom checked his datapad. Almost everything, Admiral. Power generators, communication arrays, life support backups, even some of our ship components. The Council said it would help us integrate better with galactic standards. Sarah felt like a fool. They had been so grateful for the Council's help that they never questioned why advanced aliens would be so generous with their technology. An alarm began blaring throughout the command center. Lieutenant Morrison's voice came over the speakers. Admiral, Chen to the bridge immediately. We have a priority message from Earth Command. Sarah ran to the bridge where Morrison was waiting with a worried expression. On the main screen was Admiral Jackson, head of Earth's Space Forces. His face was grim. Sarah, we have a situation, Jackson said without preamble. 3 hours ago, our border colonies in Sector 12 were attacked by unknown ships. The attackers used human weapon signatures, but the ships don't match any design. In our database, Sarah felt the world spinning around her. Human weapon signatures, that's impossible. The evidence is clear, Jackson continued. Energy weapon patterns, missile types, even communication frequencies all match human technology. But here's the strange part. Our colonies in that sector report they never sent any ships toward the attacked worlds. Dr. Webb stepped forward. Admiral Jackson, could these be false flag operations? Someone using our technology to frame humanity? Jackson's expression darkened. That's what we're afraid of. But the Council has already received complaints from 3 neutral species claiming they were attacked by human pirates. They're demanding an investigation. The pieces of the puzzle began falling into place in Sarah's mind. The equipment failures, the communication blackouts, the mysterious attacks using human technology. It was all connected. Admiral, Sarah said carefully, I think we're being set up. Over the next few weeks, the situation got worse. More reports came in of attacks by ships using human technology. The Council assigned human fleets to patrol the border regions where these attacks were happening, supposedly to catch the criminals responsible. But every time human ships arrived at an attack site, they found nothing but angry alien victims, pointing fingers at Earth. The real attackers always seemed to vanish just before human forces showed up. Captain Rodriguez spent her days analyzing attack patterns and ship movements. What she found made her sick. Admiral, I've traced the attack ships, she reported during a private meeting in Sarah's quarters. They're launching from Council space, not from any human colony. Someone is using ships disguised as human vessels to attack neutral worlds. Sarah paced her small room like a caged animal. Who would do this and why? Think about it, Lisa said. The Council was worried about human unpredictability. What if they decided to solve that problem by framing us as pirates and criminals? They could claim they need to take control of human space for galactic security. The idea was monstrous, but it made perfect sense. The Council had been watching humanity for decades. They knew humans were dangerous, that they developed technology fast and didn't follow the same rules as other species. Instead of trying to control humanity through politics, they were setting up a false war. Dr. Webb's voice came over Sarah's, personal communicator. Admiral, you need to see this immediately. They found Webb in his lab staring at a decoded message he had intercepted from Council space. His face was pale with shock. I've been monitoring Council communications, he said. This message was sent from Nexus Prime to military commanders in the Architect fleet. It's orders for something called Operation Containment. Sarah read the decoded text, and her blood ran cold. The message outlined plans to attack human colonies while making it look like the work of human pirates. It even mentioned using the backdoors in Council-provided technology to disable human defenses at the right moment. My God, Webb whispered. They've been planning this since the day they accepted us into the Council. Lisa was already moving toward the communications station. We need to warn Earth and all the colonies immediately. Wait, Sarah said. If we reveal what we know now, they'll just move up their timeline. We need more evidence, and we need to be ready to defend ourselves. She turned to Webb. Marcus, can you disable the backdoors in our technology without the Council knowing? Webb thought for a moment. Maybe, If I'm careful, I might be able to create workarounds that bypass the control circuits, but it will take time. How much time? 2 weeks? Maybe 3. Sarah made a command decision that would change everything. Do it. Work around the clock if you have to. Lisa, I want you to send coded messages to all human colonies and ships. Tell them to prepare for possible hostilities, but use language that won't trigger council monitoring systems. As her officers hurried to carry out their orders, Sarah stood alone on the observation deck looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the council was preparing to destroy humanity. They thought humans were too dangerous to be free, so they would create a war to justify enslaving them. But they had made one crucial mistake. They assumed humans would react the same way other species did when threatened, with panic and confusion. They didn't understand that humans became most dangerous when their backs were against the wall. Sarah smiled grimly as she watched ships moving in the distance. The council wanted to see what humans did when cornered. They were about to find out. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Tom Bradley's voice came over the speaker. Admiral, we've detected unusual movement in council space. Multiple fleets are mobilizing near the border sectors. Sarah's smile faded. The trap was about to close and humanity was running out of time. Signal all ships, she ordered. Implement Emergency Protocol 7. It's time to see what we're really made of. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had been hiding more than just their true nature. They had been hiding their true strength. The Emergency Council meeting was called for dawn on Nexus Prime. Admiral Sarah Chen received the message while she was reviewing defense plans on New Terra Colony. The Council claimed they needed to discuss the growing piracy problem in human space. It's a trap, Captain Lisa Rodriguez said bluntly. They want you there so they can arrest you or worse. Sarah looked at the formal invitation on her screen. The language was polite, but there was something threatening underneath. The Council was demanding her presence, not requesting it. Maybe, Sarah said. But if I don't go, they'll use that as proof that humanity is refusing to cooperate. We need to maintain the illusion that we don't know what they're planning. Dr. Marcus Webb looked up from his work on the Council technology. Admiral, I've made good progress on disabling the back doors. Give me 12 more hours, and I can have all our critical systems protected. Sarah shook her head. We don't have 12 hours. The meeting is in 6 hours, and if I'm not there, they'll know something is wrong. She turned to her senior staff. Prepare my ship for departure, but keep it looking routine. Lisa, I want you to monitor all Council communications while I'm gone. If they make their move, send the warning signal to all human colonies immediately. The flight to Nexus Prime felt different this time. Instead of excitement, Sarah felt a cold dread in her stomach. As her ship approached the massive station, she noticed something that made her blood freeze. The docking bays were full of Council warships, far more than usual. The architect cruiser Crystal Harmony was there, along with 3 collective hive ships and a squadron of ethereal energy vessels. This wasn't a diplomatic meeting. This was a military operation. Dr. Webb accompanied her to the station as always. But something felt wrong about him today. He was nervous, but not in the way someone should be nervous about walking into a trap. He kept checking his communication device and looking around like he was expecting something. The meeting room was smaller than the Grand Assembly Hall, but it was packed with Council representatives. Crystalline Prime stood at the center, its crystal form glowing brighter than usual. The collective voice spoke through a dozen different beings at once, creating an unsettling chorus. The ethereal representative floated above them all like a burning star. Admiral Chen, Crystalline Prime began. We have disturbing news. The piracy situation in human space has gotten worse. 3 more neutral worlds were attacked yesterday. Sarah kept her face calm. That's terrible news. What can humanity do to help stop these criminals? The collective voice answered, speaking through multiple beings. The attacks all use human technology and tactics. The evidence points to human involvement at the highest levels. That's impossible, Sarah said firmly. No human government would authorize attacks on innocent civilians. Perhaps not government, the ethereal said, its voice like the sound of solar wind. But rogue elements within your military could be acting independently. Sarah felt the trap closing around her. They were building a case that would justify taking control of human space, claiming it was necessary to stop the pirates. Then Dr. Webb did something that shocked her to her core. He stepped forward and placed a data pad on the table. "I'm afraid there's more evidence," he said quietly. "Evidence that I've been gathering for the council." Sarah stared at him in disbelief. "Marcus, what are you doing?" Webb's face was filled with what looked like genuine regret, but his voice was steady. "I'm sorry, Sarah, but I've been working with the council for over a year. They needed someone inside the human command structure to monitor the situation." The betrayal hit Sarah like a physical blow. Webb had been her advisor, her expert on alien cultures, her friend. He had access to everything: troop movements, technology reports, strategic plans. "You gave them our defense codes," Sarah said, her voice barely a whisper. Webb nodded. "Among other things, the council needed to understand the full extent of human military capabilities to assess the threat level." Crystalline Prime's glow intensified. "Dr. Webb has provided valuable intelligence about human aggressive tendencies and hidden military projects. The evidence confirms our worst fears about your species." Sarah felt rage building inside her, but she forced herself to stay calm. "What evidence? We've followed every council directive since joining." Webb activated the datapad and images appeared in the air above the table. They showed human military installations, ship designs, and weapons testing that should have been classified. "These are your civilian research stations," Webb said. "But as you can see, they're actually heavily armed military bases. And these ships aren't exploration vessels. They're warships disguised as merchant craft." The images were real, but they told only part of the story. Yes, humanity had hidden some of their military strength, but they had done it for defense, not aggression. "Every species protects their strategic assets," Sarah said. "That's not evidence of criminal activity." The collective voice laughed, a sound like 1,000 people chuckling at once. "Perhaps not by human standards, but by galactic law. Concealing military assets from the council is a serious violation." Sarah realized with growing horror that this had all been planned from the beginning. The council had never intended to treat humanity as equals. They had been gathering evidence to justify a takeover from the moment humans set foot on Nexus Prime. "The council has made a decision," Crystalline Prime announced. "Human space will be placed under council protection until the piracy problem is resolved and human military forces can be properly integrated with galactic standards." "You mean conquered," Sarah said. "We prefer protected," the ethereal replied. "Your species shows great potential, but you need guidance to reach it safely." Alarms began sounding throughout Nexus Prime. Sarah's heart leaped with hope. Maybe Lisa had detected the trap and was mounting a rescue. But Webb smiled and she realized the truth. "Those alarms signal the beginning of Operation Containment," Webb said. "Right now, Council forces are moving to secure human colonies and ships throughout the galaxy. Within hours, all human military assets will be under Council control." Sarah tried to activate her communication device to warn her people, but it was dead. The Council had been jamming human communications from the moment she arrived. "Don't worry," Crystalline Prime said in what it probably thought was a comforting tone. "Human civilians will not be harmed. Your species will be relocated to suitable worlds where you can develop under proper supervision." Sarah looked around the room at the alien faces surrounding her. They genuinely believed they were doing the right thing. In their minds, they were, protecting the galaxy from dangerous humans while giving humanity a chance to grow in the right direction. But they had made one crucial mistake. They thought they understood human capabilities based on what Webb had shown them. They had no idea that humanity's real military strength had been hidden so deep that even Webb didn't know about it. "There's something you should know," Sarah said quietly. "What is that?" Crystalline Prime asked. Sarah smiled, and for the first time since entering the room, she felt genuine confidence. "Dr. Webb never had access to our real military projects. Everything he showed you represents maybe 10% of human military capability." Webb's face went pale. "That's impossible. I had top-level clearance." "You had the clearance we gave you," Sarah said. The projects you found were the ones we wanted people like you to find. The real weapons, the real ships, the real bases. They've been hidden in the dark between stars for decades. The council representatives looked at each other with what might have been concern. Even if that's true, the collective voice said, your scattered forces cannot stand against the combined might of the council. Sarah's smile widened. You're about to find out just how wrong you are. Outside Nexus Prime, space began to shimmer, as ships that had been invisible suddenly appeared. They were unlike anything the council had ever seen, massive, angular vessels that seemed to bend light around them. The Retribution Armada had arrived. The first sign that something was wrong came from the outer rim sectors. Council Admiral Zephyr 9, commanding the ethereal fleet attacking human colonies, received a message that made no sense. Sir, we're detecting unknown ships approaching. The human colony on Kepler Station, his sensor operator reported. But there shouldn't be any human reinforcements in this sector. Zephyr 9 studied the tactical display. His fleet of 12 energy ships had been attacking the lightly defended colony for 2 hours. The human forces had fought bravely but were clearly outmatched. Victory was just minutes away. Show me these ships, he ordered. The main screen flickered and 3 massive vessels appeared. They were unlike any human ships in the Council database. These craft were dark, angular, and seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with impossible grace for something so large. Identification? Zephyr 9 demanded. Unknown, sir. The ships aren't responding to our signals, and our scanners can't penetrate their hulls. The lead unknown ship opened fire. Beams of coherent energy struck the ethereal flagship, and something impossible happened. The energy beings that made up the crew began to flicker and fade. Their energy forms, which should have been immune to physical weapons, were being disrupted by something they had never encountered before. Impossible, Zephyr 9 whispered as his own form began to destabilize. No physical weapon can harm pure energy. But the humans had spent 50 years studying every species they encountered. They learned that ethereals existed on specific energy frequencies, and they had built weapons that could disrupt those frequencies. As Zephyr 9's consciousness scattered into the void, his last thought was that the Council had badly underestimated their enemy. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. In Sector 12, the collective Hive fleet found themselves facing ships that generated electromagnetic pulses specially tuned to disrupt hive mind communications. Without their perfect coordination, the collective drones became confused and helpless. Architect fleets discovered that human ships carried weapons that generated specific sound frequencies. These harmonic disruptors turned the Architect's greatest strength, their crystal bodies, into a weakness. The carefully tuned crystal matrices that gave them their power began to shatter under the precisely calculated acoustic assault. On Nexus Prime, alarms were blaring as panicked reports flooded in from across Council space. Crystalline Prime stood in the emergency command center, its inner light flickering with distress. How many fleets have we lost contact with? It demanded. The collective voice answered through a dozen beings, but for the first time in history, they were not speaking. In perfect unison. 21, the number keeps growing. Dr. Webb sat in the corner, his face pale with shock. This can't be happening. I gave the Council everything about human military capabilities. Admiral Sarah Chen, still under guard but now watching the chaos with grim satisfaction, shook her head. You gave them what we wanted you to see. Did you really think a species that went from wooden ships to space travel in 500 years would show all their cards to strangers? The main tactical display showed the true scope of the disaster. Red markers indicated Council fleets under attack or destroyed. Blue markers showed human ships appearing from nowhere. In just 6 hours, the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted completely. Where did these ships come from? Crystalline Prime demanded. Sarah smiled coldly. From the dark between stars. While you were watching our colonies and counting our patrol ships, we were building the real fleet in places you never thought to look. Captain Lisa Rodriguez's voice suddenly filled the command center. She had managed to break through the Council's communication jamming. Admiral Chen, this is Rodriguez. Project Retribution is fully active. All hidden fleets have been deployed. Council forces are in full retreat across 17 sectors. The council leaders stared at the display in growing horror. Human ships were appearing everywhere, and they were nothing like the vessels in their intelligence reports. These ships were larger, more advanced, and carried weapons that seemed designed specifically to counter each council species. "How?" Webb whispered. "How did you hide entire fleets?" Sarah's expression was ice cold. "Simple. We learned from you. Every species we met, every technology you shared, every weakness you revealed thinking we were too primitive to understand. We studied it all and made it better." The truth began to dawn on the council representatives. Humanity had been playing a much deeper game than anyone realized. "You see," Sarah continued, "when you're the new species in a galaxy full of ancient, powerful civilizations, you have two choices. Show your strength and make enemies, or appear weak while you build real strength in secret." Another wave of reports came in. Human ships were systematically destroying council military installations while carefully avoiding civilian targets. It wasn't random violence. It was surgical warfare designed to cripple council military power while demonstrating human precision and restraint. "The carrier Nemesis has taken the architect shipyards in the Centauri system," Lisa's voice reported. "Captain Rodriguez sends her regards." Crystalline Prime's form was flickering with panic. "This is impossible. Our intelligence said humans had maybe 300 ships total." "Your intelligence was wrong," Sarah said. "We have over 2,000 ships in the Retribution Armada alone. And that's just the first wave." Dr. Webb stood up shakily. "Sarah, you have to stop this. The Council was trying to protect the galaxy. Humans are too dangerous to be left unchecked." Sarah's eyes blazed with anger. "Too dangerous? You mean too independent, too unwilling to bow down to your ancient empires, too quick to find our own solutions instead of accepting your guidance?" She gestured at the tactical display. "Look at your protection, Marcus. You are planning to scatter humanity across a dozen prison worlds, break up our families and turn us into a client species. And you call us the dangerous ones." The ethereal representative, its energy form flickering with distress, tried to speak. "We meant no harm. We genuinely believed humanity needed guidance." "Maybe you did," Sarah replied. "But you made your decision without asking us what we wanted. You decided to conquer us for our own good. That's not protection. That's slavery with better marketing." More reports flooded in. The human ship Vindication had appeared in orbit around the Council's military academy world. The massive vessel, larger than any ship in the Council database, was broadcasting a message on all frequencies. Sarah activated her communication device, which was working again now that human forces controlled the local space. "Put me through to the Vindication." The main screen flickered and Admiral Jackson appeared. Behind him, Sarah could see the bridge of a ship that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. "Admiral Chen, good to see you're safe," Jackson said. "We've secured 12 major Council military installations and disabled their fleet commands in 9 sectors. Resistance is collapsing faster than we expected." Sarah nodded. "What about civilian casualties?" "0 on our side, minimal on theirs. We're following the rules of engagement exactly. Military targets only, with warnings given when possible." The Council representatives listened to this exchange with growing amazement. Even in the middle of a devastating military campaign, humans were being careful to avoid unnecessary deaths. "You see," Sarah said to the Council, "this is what humans do when we're threatened. We don't panic or surrender. We adapt, we plan, and we strike back with everything we have. But we don't become monsters in the process." Crystalline Prime's voice was barely a whisper. "What do you want from us?" Sarah looked around the room at the beings who had tried to enslave her species. "Unconditional surrender, recognition of human independence, and a new understanding that humanity will never again bow to anyone who thinks they know what's best for us." The galaxy was learning a lesson that humanity had known for thousands of years. Never corner a predator unless you're absolutely certain you can kill it. Outside Nexus Prime, the Retribution Armada waited in perfect formation, their dark hulls reflecting the light of distant stars. The Council's ancient empire was crumbling, and humanity was just getting started. The final assault began at dawn on the third day. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the flagship Vindication as it led the Retribution Armada toward Nexus Prime. Around her, the largest human fleet ever assembled moved through space like a steel storm. "All ships report ready, Admiral," Captain Lisa Rodriguez announced from her position at the tactical station. After her escape from Council space, she had been given command of the stealth destroyer Nemesis, but for this battle, she served as Sarah's tactical coordinator. Sarah looked at the massive display showing the approaching battle. Nexus Prime was defended by the remaining Council fleets, over 400 ships from a dozen different species. It should have been an impossible fight for humanity, but the humans were done hiding their true capabilities. "Begin operation. Prometheus," Sarah ordered. The first wave hit the outer defenses like a hammer. Human ships that had seemed impossible just days before now revealed weapons that bent the laws of physics. The Vindication itself fired a beam that seemed to tear holes in space itself, creating gravitational distortions that crushed enemy ships like empty cans. The Architect fleet tried to form a crystal wall defense, linking their ships together to create an unbreakable barrier. But human scientists had spent decades studying crystal resonance frequencies. The harmonic disruptors fired a sound that turned the Architect's greatest strength into their doom. The crystal ships shattered like glass, their fragments sparkling, as they drifted through space. "Architect fleet is neutralized," Lisa reported with professional calm. "Moving to engage collective forces." The collective hive ships swarmed toward the human fleet like angry insects. Their tactics were perfect, their coordination flawless, their response time measured in milliseconds. But humans had learned to fight hive minds too. The human ships activated electromagnetic pulse generators tuned to specific neural frequencies. Across the collective fleet, the hive-mind connection began to break down. Individual drone ships found themselves alone for the first time in their existence, unable to coordinate with their sisters. "Collective forces are scattering," Lisa announced. "Neural disruption is 100% effective." The ethereal energy beings tried a different approach. Instead of fighting ship to ship, they attempted to phase directly into human vessels and possess the crews. It was a tactic that had never failed against physical species, but humanity had prepared for this too. Every human ship was equipped with phase variance fields that could trap energy beings in quantum bottles. The ethereals found themselves captured and contained, unable to return to their natural energy state. "Ethereal possession attempts have been neutralized," came the report from the destroyer Nemesis. "All energy beings are contained and harmless." On Nexus Prime, the Council leadership watched their fleets die with growing horror. In less than 2 hours, humanity had destroyed forces that had taken centuries to build. Dr. Marcus Webb sat in the Council Command Center, his head in his hands. "This is impossible," he kept repeating. "No single species should be able to defeat the entire Council." Crystalline Prime's inner light was dim with despair. "How did we not see this coming?" Admiral Sarah Chen's voice filled the command center as the human fleet surrounded Nexus Prime. "You didn't see it because you didn't want to see it. You looked at humanity and saw primitive warmongers who needed to be controlled. You never considered that we might be something else entirely." The main tactical display showed the truth of her words. The human fleet had positioned itself around Nexus Prime with mathematical precision. Every escape route was blocked, every defensive position neutralized, every Council ship disabled or destroyed. But most remarkably, they had done it all without destroying a single civilian structure or killing any non-combatants. "You want to know what humans really are?" Sarah's voice continued. "We're adapters. We learn from everyone we meet. We take your technologies and make them better. We study your weaknesses and prepare counters. We've been doing it for 50,000 years on our own world, and we've been doing it for 50 years in space." The Council forces that remained tried one last desperate attack. The surviving ships from 17 different species launched a coordinated assault on the Vindication. Energy beams, kinetic missiles, exotic matter weapons, and psionic attacks all struck the human flagship at once. The ship's shields flared but held. When the light faded, The Vindication was undamaged. Our shields are based on technology from all of your species, Sarah explained. Architect crystal matrices for energy absorption, collective adaptive algorithms for kinetic defense, ethereal phase shifting for exotic attacks. We learned from everyone, and now we're better at being you than you are. The final council ships powered down their weapons. There was no point in continuing a fight they could never win. Dr. Webb made one last attempt at negotiation. He activated his personal communicator and appeared on the Vindication's main screen. "Sarah, please," he said, his voice filled with desperation. "You've proven your point. Humanity is stronger than we thought. But you're destroying everything the Council has built over thousands of years." Sarah's face was stone cold as she looked at her former friend. "You tried to destroy everything humanity has built in our brief time among the stars. Did you expect us to just accept it?" "We were trying to protect the galaxy from the chaos humanity would bring," Webb pleaded. "Your species doesn't follow the established order. You're unpredictable, aggressive, innovative in ways that threaten stability." Sarah smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "You're absolutely right, Marcus. We are unpredictable. We are aggressive when threatened, and we are innovative in ways that your ancient, comfortable civilizations can't match." She gestured at the display showing the defeated council fleets. "You wanted to see what humans do when cornered? This is what humans do when cornered. We don't just fight back. We win." The collective voice spoke through the few remaining drones, its perfect harmony broken into discordant notes. "What happens now? Will you destroy us all?" Sarah's expression softened slightly. "No. Despite what you believe about us, humans aren't monsters. We're going to give you the same choice you gave us." She paused to let that sink in. "You can surrender completely and accept humanity as the dominant power in this galaxy. Your fleets will be disbanded, your military technology will be turned over to human authorities, and your worlds will be reorganized under human guidance. We'll protect you from yourselves and help you develop in the right direction." The council representatives realized she was throwing their own words back at them. "Or," Sarah continued, "you can accept humanity as an equal partner in a new galactic order, one where no species gets to decide what's best for another, where diversity is strength, not a problem to be managed." Crystalline Prime's voice was barely audible. "And if we choose neither?" Sarah's smile disappeared. "Then we finish what you started. Every council world, every fleet, every station. We hunt down every ship and base until nothing remains but empty space and bad memories." The threat hung in the air like poison. The council had seen what human ships could do. They had no doubt that humanity could carry out that promise. "We choose partnership," Crystalline Prime said finally. "Equal partnership." Sarah nodded. "Smart choice. But understand this. If any council species ever again tries to decide what's best for humanity or any other species without their consent, will come back. And next time we won't be so merciful." As the council fleets powered down their weapons and prepared to surrender, Dr. Webb made one final comment. "You've become the very thing we were afraid of," he said. "A species so powerful that everyone else has to live in fear of you." Sarah looked at him for a long moment. "Maybe. But here's the difference, Marcus. We won't use that power to enslave or control other species. We'll use it to make sure no one ever tries to enslave or control us again." The battle for Nexus Prime was over. The Galactic Council's rule had ended after thousands of years. In its place, humanity stood ready to forge a new kind of galactic civilization, one based on strength, independence, and the hard-learned lesson that the most dangerous predator in the galaxy was the one that learned from its prey. The stars stretched out before them, full of infinite possibilities, and the promise that humanity would never again bow to those who claimed to know what was best for them. 3 months after the fall of Nexus Prime, the galaxy was a very different place. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in what used to be the Grand Assembly Hall, now converted into the headquarters of the new Galactic Alliance. The floating platforms that Once held 800 council species now hosted representatives from over 1,000 different civilizations. The difference was remarkable. Instead of the rigid hierarchy that had defined council rule, the alliance operated on principles of voluntary cooperation and mutual respect. Species joined because they wanted to, not because they were forced to or needed protection from stronger neighbors. The Zenobian Republic has requested alliance membership, reported Captain Lisa Rodriguez, who now served as Director of Diplomatic Relations. Their application includes technology sharing agreements and mutual defense guarantees. Sarah nodded as she reviewed the application on her datapad. The Zenobians were a peaceful species that had been oppressed under council rule for centuries. Now they were free to develop their own society without interference. Approved, she said. Send them the standard welcome package and assign a human liaison team. It was strange how quickly things had changed. The species that had once cowered in fear of humanity now lined up to join the alliance. They had seen that humans kept their promises. The defeated council races had been treated fairly, allowed to rebuild their societies, and given representation in the new government. Dr. Marcus Webb entered the hall, escorted by 2 human guards. As part of his sentence for treason, he was required to help with the transition to the new galactic order. His expertise in alien cultures was too valuable to waste, even if his loyalty could never be trusted again. The Architect Reconstruction Project is ahead of schedule, he reported. Their new government has agreed to share crystal technology in exchange for mining rights in the Outer Rim. Sarah looked at her former friend and advisor. Webb had aged years in just 3 months. The weight of his betrayal and its consequences clearly haunted him. How are they adapting to democracy? She asked. Webb's expression was complicated. Better than expected. It turns out that when you give a species the freedom to choose their own path, they often choose wisely. The architects are already developing new crystal technologies that we never saw under council rule. This was perhaps the most surprising result of humanity's victory. Instead of collapsing into chaos as the Council had predicted, most species had flourished under the new system. Without the rigid restrictions and forced conformity of council rule, alien civilizations were experiencing a renaissance of creativity and innovation. Admiral Jackson entered the hall carrying a report that made Sarah's heart sink. As head of HFY Alliance Intelligence, he was responsible for monitoring threats to the new galactic order. We have a problem, he said without preamble. Long-range sensors have detected massive energy signatures from beyond the galactic rim. Something is moving toward us from intergalactic space. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. The galaxy had enjoyed 3 months of peace, but she had always known it wouldn't last forever. The universe was a big place, and humanity's dramatic rise to power would not go unnoticed by other civilizations. What kind of energy signatures, she asked. Jackson activated a holographic display showing the sensor data, unknown technology. But the power levels are enormous. Whatever is out there is much larger than anything we've ever encountered. Dr. Webb studied the readings with the expertise of someone who had spent decades analyzing alien technology. These patterns don't match any known species, he said. The energy signatures suggest technology that's far more advanced than even the old council races. Sarah looked at the data and felt both excitement and concern. Humanity had just finished proving they could defeat the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Now something even more powerful was heading their way. How long until they arrive? She asked. Based on current speed and trajectory, approximately 18 months, Jackson replied. Maybe less if they have faster-than-light capabilities we don't understand. Sarah walked to the large window that overlooked the space around. Nexus Prime. Human ships patrolled alongside vessels from dozens of Alliance species. The sight still amazed her. Former enemies working together, protecting each other, building something better than what came before. But now that achievement was threatened by an unknown force from beyond the stars. Recommendations? She asked. Her advisors. Lisa spoke first. We should begin immediate preparations for defense. Alert all Alliance members, accelerate military production, and start developing new technologies. Jackson nodded. I agree. We also need to gather intelligence. Send long-range scout ships to monitor the approaching force and try to establish communication. Webb hesitated before speaking. There's another option. We could try to contact them peacefully, explain the new galactic order, and invite them to join the alliance. Sarah almost laughed at the suggestion. Marcus, you still don't understand, do you? Some beings can't be reasoned with or negotiated with. Sometimes the only language they understand is strength. She turned back to her advisors. We'll do all three. Prepare for war, gather intelligence, and attempt peaceful contact. But we go in assuming the worst and hoping for the best. Over the following weeks, the alliance transformed into a massive, military-industrial complex. Human shipyards worked around the clock to build new vessels, while alliance scientists collaborated on weapons and defense systems that combined the best technologies of 100 different species. The architects contributed their crystal technology, creating ships with nearly indestructible hulls. The former collective members shared their coordination algorithms, allowing alliance fleets to fight with perfect synchronization. Even the ethereals, now free from their energy prisons, offered their expertise in exotic physics. But it was human innovation that truly made the difference. Taking technologies from across the galaxy and combining them in ways no one had thought possible, human engineers created ships and weapons that were more than the sum of their parts. Dr. Webb, despite his past betrayals, proved invaluable in this effort. His knowledge of alien psychology and technology helped predict how the approaching force might think and fight. Based on the energy signatures, I believe we're dealing with machine intelligences, he reported during a strategy meeting. The patterns are too regular, too efficient for biological minds. These could be artificial intelligences or cybernetic species. Sarah considered this information. Humans had experience fighting AI. Their own history was filled with conflicts between man and machine. But those had been terrestrial AIs, limited by the technology and resources of a single world. If they're machines, they'll probably fight. Logically and efficiently, she said. No emotion, no fear, no mercy. But also no creativity, no adaptation, no ability to think outside their programming. Lisa smiled grimly. Sounds like they're about to learn what happens when logical machines meet illogical humans. As the months passed, the approaching force became clearer. It was a vast armada of geometric ships that moved in perfect formation. There were thousands of them, each one larger than anything in the Alliance database. When they finally reached the galactic rim, they stopped and sent a single message on all frequencies. This galaxy belongs to the Eternal Imperium. All biological life forms will be cataloged and preserved. All technological assets will be absorbed into the collective. Resistance is futile and will result in immediate termination. Sarah read the message from the bridge of the new human flagship Prometheus. The ship was the culmination of everything humanity had learned from their galactic neighbors. A vessel that could adapt its configuration in real time, phase between dimensions, and fire weapons that manipulated fundamental forces. Well, she said to her crew, it looks like we're about to find out if the galaxy's newest apex predators can handle an extinction-level threat. The Eternal Imperium had conquered 100 galaxies over millions of years. They had never encountered meaningful resistance from biological life forms. They were about to discover that they had never met humans before. As the Alliance fleet prepared for the largest battle in galactic history, Sarah couldn't help but smile. The Council had been afraid that humanity was too dangerous to be left unchecked. They were probably right, but sometimes the galaxy needed something dangerous to protect it from something worse. The stars waited in silence as two cosmic forces prepared to collide, and the future of all biological life hung in the balance. Humanity had proven they could conquer a galaxy. Now they would discover if they could save one. The real test was just beginning.